Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. So they have just announced today through a Reddit post. I couldn't actually find anything official, but I imagine that will come out in a few days, I hope. They're going to do some balance changes and some, let's just say, new features with the ranked system in Hearthstone coming up pretty soon. This is the bulk of the post here, and while it is actually pretty big news, I really thought I have to do my duty to tell you guys about it and give you guys my impressions, because certainly, especially in recent times, I have done my fair share of criticizing the problems that Hearthstone has, and I thought it would be in very poor taste to not talk about their efforts to actually change things. And this is certainly, I think, a very good step. So let's talk about it. Going from top to bottom, the first thing that they introduce is the ranked play floors. So if you're not familiar with, but you probably are, you can't actually downrank if you're at rank 20 or higher than that. So if you're at rank 22 and you lose, nothing happens. If you're at rank 19, well, you lose, something happens. You're going to lose a few stars, or just one star, I guess. And the same is true for legend rank. So if you're a legend like 10,000, you're the worst legend player in the world, and you still lose, you are still the worst legend player in the world. You're just kind of stuck. You're bracketed. You're floored on the legend rank. And basically what this does is it inflates the whole system. So, people get the legend at the start of the ladder. If someone has to win, someone else has to lose because of the win streaks. There's a few people that kind of, push through the ranked systems without the average losing. And at the end, they hit legend, and yeah, they generally screw around and play some wacky decks. At least some streamers and some people do, and they actually do pretty poorly in terms of results once they are legend, but, playing a wacky deck at legend just seems so much more prestigious than playing a wacky deck at rank 12, where in fact it's kind of the opposite. At rank 12 right now, you lose stars if you lose, but with the new system, there's a little bit of a comfort zone with that. If you are at like rank 10 and you lose a whole bunch, you're still going to be at rank 10. So this whole system makes the ladder a lot less serious, a lot less competitive, and I think that is an absolute must. Because really the ladder system we have right now is kind of a joke. So making it less serious and encouraging players to experiment more, which, they evidently admit is their design goal behind this change, I think is an excellent change for Hearthstone. The reality is, yes, it's a personal achievement to get rank 10 for the first time. I get it. I really understand that. But nobody else really generally cares about you getting rank 10 for the first time. So you getting rank 10 and then feeling good and trying to experiment with some decks now that you finally hit rank 10, I think is going to basically improve the whole world of Hearthstone. You won't feel like, the pressure that you might de-rank back to rank 11. Oh my god, maybe rank 12. You can actually play some cool stuff. You can take a break from playing some of the more meta decks. And I think this more lighthearted approach to ladder is going to have a gigantic impact. I think even though the balance changes are probably going to be the highlight of this patch, the ranked play floors, I think, are the first fundamental improvement to ladder in the last 3.5 years of Hearthstone. Okay, and that is no joke, because seemingly the only thing the Hearthstone development team focuses on is the ladder system, and now they've actually directly done something to improve it. So really, really big props to that. As far as the balance changes, certainly there's a lot of stuff that needs to be changed, but, we're kind of like midway-ish through the expansion cycle. It's kind of difficult to really have them, change a lot of stuff. We're probably just going to do that once the expansion is released by releasing a whole bunch of new cards, and hopefully those will make things more interesting. Hopefully, though typically as time passes, Hearthstone ranked play gets worse. But regardless, what they want to do is they want to change Small Time Buccaneer to have 1 health instead of 2, which makes them a lot worse. It makes the cheap 1 damage Whirlwind effect board clears extremely powerful against pirate decks, and that is a pretty big big deal. I suspect that would affect some of the win rates of the more aggressive decks quite substantially, and I think more than anything, this is a nerf to the legendary patches. But patches is not going to see a refund, so I expect some people might be pretty unhappy to see this change, as they may have spent their last few months of savings and dust on patches, and they're not going to be able to play that card anymore. So that's a little bit unfair. I think it's actually reasonable, and I think a good gesture on Blizzard's part to reward players with the full disenchant price of patches. But yeah, I don't think that will happen, even though they really should do that. I also have a few copies of patches, so maybe it's a little bit, maybe a bit biased of an opinion, but whatever. The last change is Spirit Claws, 2 mana from 1 mana. Oh, so turns out this weapon is pretty good. Yes, it is. Though at 2 mana, really highlights the problems with aggro in early game Hearthstone. We've moved Hearthstone to more of aggressive field almost every single expansion, and that keeps highlighting the change between 1 mana cards and 2 mana cards. A 2 mana card is, if it's even close to the power level 1 mana card, it's basically unplayable, because if you just fill your deck with more powerful 1-drops and you just play 2 1-drops on turn 2 instead of that 2-drop, you have twice as much power in a stage of the game that is, ultimately decisive. So basically what I'm saying is, increasing the cost of a card by 1 is a big deal, but going from 1 mana to 2 mana is like as big as it gets. This is gigantic. This card is going to go from batshit broken to kind of crap. It might still see some play, but really I'm not so sure. I don't know. It might see some play just because people might still be playing the pirate package, but again, with that, I'm not so sure. So it really goes to show just how rigid these mana costs are. It would be nice to have like a 1.5 mana cost or something like that. Basically, I feel like they should have probably nerfed this card. They probably should have a bit more of an understanding of the power level between 1-drops and 2-drops. But we'll see. Maybe with time, we'll gain some of these improvements. So what will happen? Seems like some aggressive decks will leave the meta. Seems like some, pretty powerful Jade decks will come back in the meta because there's going to be fewer aggressive decks. And I can't say that we will have a better ranked ladder experience, because I don't know if you've played against like 6 Jade Druids in a row, but I have. And that isn't that much more fun, or maybe not more fun at all, than playing against pirate decks 6 times in a row. So I'm not convinced the ladder experience in terms of game after game will be much better, but I do have to say the ranked floor system that they implemented is going to have big and very significant impacts. The last thing I really want to talk about has nothing directly to do with the patch notes, but it has to do with the release date. They talked about how they want to release a balance patch at the end of this month. So like 30 days, right? Because they made that announcement at the start of the month. And now they're kind of keeping up with that. It seems that despite all of their efforts, they're not able to make balance changes until about a month passes. And they talk about how it takes some time for the approval systems of all the mobile clients and all the operating systems to approve all that, because for them to change like one stat on one card, they have to completely patch the game as a whole. And I think that needs a systemic change. That is not acceptable for a billion-dollar company, in my opinion, for the excuse of not being able to change the features of a game because the game is not coded to do that, when I think it's one of the main advantages to playing a digital card game. If something is a little bit out of balance, you shouldn't, at the very least, have to wait a month to fix it. I think that is absolutely insane. So they really gotta move their ass and change the way that aspect of the game works. And some of you guys might be armchair like developers, is like, Krip, when you change that, it has to change the game completely and all that. Well, one realization I had yesterday was, well, every single week we have a new Tavern Brawl, so like this gigantic section of the game can have changes in it week after week after week, no big deal whatsoever. But to up the mana cost of a card by 1, we have to patch the entire game and wait months. How ridiculous is that, right? So, yeah, certainly with that changed, hopefully with all of our complaints and all of our rioting that we've done on Reddit and all the other stuff and the current state of the game, hopefully this can change systemically and we can have more balance features and more like changes to cards. You know, there's always like nerfs and stuff when we talk about card balancing, but I think there's always going to be a lot of cards that they think are going to be really cool that end up underperforming. And I would very much like to see balance changes like 1 or 2 weeks after an expansion goes live that actually buffs cards that are really cool but are seeing less play than they anticipated. So there's so much cool stuff that they can do, but the whole system is broken as it is right now. And yeah, the only thing we can really hope for the immediate sense is that they take action on this internally and that the new expansion, the one that's coming, I don't know, 1 to 3 months from now is going to kick ass. But that's quite some time. Until then, hope you guys enjoyed my review, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.